Tanya Degurechaff is one of anime's most disturbing protagonists, not because she enjoys violence, but because she doesn't care about it at all. Picture this: a battlefield, shrouded in smoke and chaos. Amidst the screaming artillery and shimmering magical shields, a small, blonde-haired figure moves with terrifying precision. Her enemies call her the Devil of the Rhine. Her own men follow her with a mixture of awe and deep-seated fear. But look closer at those sapphire blue eyes. There's no battle lust, no hatred, no fear. There's only calculation. A hyper-efficient, ice-cold processing of variables. Is Tanya a sociopath hiding behind logic? Or is she simply the inevitable result of a brutal system that rewards cruelty and punishes humanity? Today, we'll break down Tanya's psychology across the light novel, manga, and anime, and ask one central question. Is Tanya Degurechaff mentally abnormal, or terrifyingly normal? To anime-only viewers, the answer may seem obvious. I mean, with a title like the Saga of Tanya the Evil and those iconic smiles, they're not exactly subtle. But as with everything in this saga, the answer shifts depending on which version of Tanya you're watching or reading. To some, Tanya is pure evil, a sociopath in a child's body. To others, she is a misunderstood genius, a product of a broken system, trying to survive the only way she knows how. We all know the story begins not with a hero's birth, but with a cynical death. A nameless, middle-aged Japanese salaryman is murdered for corporate efficiency, a concept he championed. Upon death, he meets an omnipotent entity he dubs Being X, who condemns his lack of faith, and is reborn as Tanya Degurechaff. We don't know much about the salaryman's life before this incident, but we can analyze the information he gives us to understand who he really was, and how that worldview later shapes Tanya's psychology. Let's focus first on his light novel counterpart, who gives us the most information about what he believes in. And if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe. Now let's continue. In the light novel's prologue, the salaryman reflects on the gap between geniuses and ordinary people, and how difficult it is to compete. He considers himself unremarkable, yet clearly believes he's superior to the man he's firing. He admits to having many complexes, both superiority and inferiority, describing himself as twisted. He wanted a normal, peaceful life with a stable income. We know he had friends. One group he consulted for career advice, another he bonded with over shared hobbies like gaming. He didn't enjoy firing people, but viewed it as necessary. His approach to life was simple: rely on order and obedience. From a psychological perspective, this can be understood as a strategy of control. By following the rules of the workplace and society, he felt safe, protected from chaos and failure. His search for peace was not tied to emotional bonds or spiritual transcendence, but to the illusion that everything could be predictable if one played by the rules. His life philosophy is reduced to utilitarian logic: comply, obey, and adapt in order not to be disturbed. He also adopted a tendency toward depersonalization, treating himself and others as parts of a machine that only needs to function correctly. This reveals a pattern of dichotomous thinking, believing everything can be divided into order and chaos, obedience and punishment, success and failure. This gives him momentary security, but limits his understanding of emotional and human complexity. At his core, the salaryman is a complex character defined by an obsessive need for control. And this mindset is crucial, because Tanya brings her previous worldview with her. When he meets Being X, the salaryman does not pray, he debates. And most importantly, he refuses faith. This rejection can be understood as a form of denial. His atheism was not just an intellectual stance, but also a psychological defense against uncertainty. He clings to reason because the opposite would force him to confront his own fragility. Because faith means surrendering control, and that is Tanya's greatest fear. His pride, or perhaps this need for control, led him to challenge Being X directly, unable to accept any authority beyond his own understanding. This condemns him to reincarnate in a world of war, suffering, and impossible choices. And from that moment on, Tanya's philosophy is shaped by resistance. Now reincarnated as Tanya, she awakens in an orphanage alongside other children in a world marked by war and deep social inequality. From the beginning, Tanya's psychology is built on instrumental rationality. What benefits me most? Not What is right? His new goal: survive. His method: applying cutthroat corporate logic to military survival. This is the key to Tanya's psychology. She views the world through the lens of a transactional, managerial handbook. Tanya's mind is a relentless engine of cost-benefit analysis. This brings us to her coping mechanism: hyper-rationality, a strategy where emotion is suppressed to maintain control in stressful environments. Tanya is not emotionless. She is emotionally disciplined to a pathological degree. She does not erase fear, guilt, or attachment because she is incapable of them. She suppresses them because they interfere. She doesn't do this consciously but instinctively. This is how she survives. Tanya understands empathy perfectly, however, it is suppressed and selective. She values people but only for their function, not for who they are. This resembles traits of functional empathy. She understands emotions intellectually, without emotionally sharing them. In a world gone mad with nationalism, dogma, and emotion, Tanya's rationality is so extreme it becomes its own form of madness. However, in this new world there is also magic, a force that grants extraordinary abilities, especially useful on the battlefield. Despite her young age, the moment she receives her conscription notice, Tanya immediately applies for officer candidacy. Why? She knows that in the Empire any individual with inborn magical talent is eventually drafted, and due to the severe shortages and high-stakes nature of the war, the Empire allows children to join the military program early. Her motivation is pragmatism. The faster she rises through the ranks, the sooner she can secure a comfortable, peaceful life as an officer, far from the chaos of war. The logical thing is to train as an officer and build a career. That way I can live comfortably in the rear lines. Tanya's constant desire for a peaceful and comfortable life is not laziness or simple pleasure-seeking, but a mechanism of psychological self-regulation. In her past life, she lived in a rigid, competitive, exhausting environment that produced chronic stress, leading her to seek refuge in absolute stability. Her idea of peace is not enjoyment, but the absence of suffering. She seeks a lifestyle with no emotional risks or excessive demands. She also distrusts life itself. She does not believe in justice, goodness, or higher purpose. Therefore, a quiet life is the only thing that gives existence practical meaning. Her genius lies in applying this cold calculus to warfare. She doesn't fight for glory or patriotism, but for career advancement and a ticket to the rear. Over time, Tanya integrates fully into the military and quickly proves herself a firm, fearsome leader, both a decisive strategist and a cunning tactician. She trains her battalion, the 203rd, with relentless corporate-style management. She reduces soldiers to human resources, their morale a maintenance issue, and victory a productivity target. This creates the infamous Devil of the Rhine, a commander whose forces achieve inhuman efficiency. Tanya also views herself as a human resource to be optimized. She does everything to raise her perceived value to her superiors, presenting the perfect soldier from day one, a strategy rooted in signaling theory. On paper, Tanya looks like the ideal imperial officer, disciplined, efficient, brave, lawful, and outwardly devout. The irony is that she performs this role so convincingly that everyone around her mistakes self-preservation for warmongering. She is oblivious of the fact that what she did in her previous life doesn't give the same result in her current career and timeline. More often than not, she has assumed other soldiers would share her mindset, leading to a series of misunderstandings. Tanya's manipulation is one of her strongest traits. Psychologically, it reflects high strategic intelligence combined with dark personality traits. Though physically a child, she has an adult mind with past life experience. She understands hierarchies, rules, and expectations and uses them to her advantage. She knows when to appear obedient, vulnerable, or strong. She exploits others' weaknesses and prejudices. This is instrumental learning. She repeats what works, regardless of emotional damage. Her manipulation is also emotional. She knows how to provoke fear, respect, or admiration to maintain control. This reflects Machiavellian traits, where the end justifies the means. She reads situations and people expertly to protect herself and consolidate power while maintaining an appearance of neutrality. She is, in her own mind, a perfectly rational actor. Every action is a calculated move on a chessboard of survival. The problem? The board is on fire, and the other player is God. That is Tanya in the novels, but what about the other two mediums? Let's talk about the animated version of Tanya. Here, there's no doubt she's psychotic, the anime exaggerates her sadism, cruelty, and intimidation factor to make her feel more overtly frightening than in the source material. An example of this is when in the first episode, Tanya purposely arranges the death of 2 insubordinate soldiers under her, while in the novel, they are simply taken off of her platoon to prevent discord. In the anime, Tanya is colder and distant towards Visha. At one point, when Visha assists her during the recruitment of her battalion, Tanya wishes she'd left her behind in the Rhine, whereas in the novel, she's genuinely delighted by her assistance. The anime omits the wrongdoings of the employee being fired. The salaryman is simply rude during the process, making a bad first impression to us watchers. The anime strips away much of the salaryman's ordinary humanity. He has no family or friends nor passions. He only cares about work. Compared to the novels, he comes across as colder, harsher, and more emotionally vacant from the very beginning, driven by an even more extreme meritocracy, a mindset of corporate Darwinism and neoliberal survivalism. To him, human relationships are transactions, morality is a social contract. Loyalty is conditional and kindness is inefficient. If you fail, it's your fault. This makes him look crueler than the original version. Now what about the manga? Early on, the salaryman is closer to his anime counterpart than the light novel version. We see glimpses of his parents, but his expression is always cold. He's ruder than in the novels, and like the anime version, he's obsessed with work, not because he wants to avoid problems and have time for himself, but seemingly for its own sake. It's in later chapters that we see his love for games and anime, and this is where the manga Tanya diverges. She begins to form real bonds with her battalion. She shows genuine patriotism for the empire. In the novels, Tanya is constantly calculating escape routes, always ready to flee to another country when things get too dangerous. But manga Tanya, in these later chapters, she would never. She would fight with everything she has to give the empire a chance. In conclusion, each version presents Tanya differently. In the light novel, we get a detached, pragmatic, and deeply philosophical Tanya. Her internal monologues reveal not confidence, but insecurity. She's tired and constantly in survival mode. In the manga, Tanya is more humanized, more heroic, more empathetic, and more friendly, an excellent soldier and true patriot. The anime emphasizes her brutality, leaning into evil genius imagery, making her scarier and a little deranged. So, is she a sociopath? The clinical definition includes traits like grandiosity, manipulation, and a lack of remorse, all of which Tanya displays. But a key component is a pervasive pattern across all aspects of life, often from childhood. Tanya's childhood is the salaryman's mind in a child's body, immediately thrown into a life-or-death struggle against 2 enemies, the entire world, and a god actively trying to break her. But Tanya also follows rules obsessively. She fears punishment, respects hierarchy, and avoids unnecessary risk. That already disqualifies her from classic sociopathy. She is not chaotic, she is hyper-controlled. This aligns more with a high-functioning, emotionally detached personality than clinical psychopathy. Tanya is fundamentally reactionary. Her most brutal suggestion, the one that led to the burning of Rhine, was offered as a hypothetical. She genuinely believed it would never come to pass. Afterward, she does worry, though more about the legal consequences than the moral ones. But that itself reveals she knew what they did was wrong. And then there's being X. In all versions, he is not just a god, he is a psychological pressure. He forces Tanya into combat, trauma, and constant survival mode, creating chronic stress, hypervigilance, and emotional numbing. Classic trauma responses. Tanya's evil personality is reinforced by divine abuse even in the anime, where being X is not a passive observer. It is an active tormentor, deliberately engineering suffering to force her to faith. Every time Tanya's perfect logic nearly secures her safety, being X twists the scenario, escalating the war, putting her back on the front lines. Her response? To become more efficient, more ruthless, more lethal. It's a vicious cycle. Divine persecution forging a human weapon sharper than any god anticipated. Here is the paradox. Tanya claims to be rational, but her hatred of God is emotional. She claims to be pragmatic, but her obsession with safety is irrational. She claims to reject ideology, but she lives by one: control. Everything she does is driven by fear, fear of chaos and punishment. So, she builds a world of calculations, where nothing is uncertain. In trying to escape suffering, she becomes its architect. She is something more disturbing than a psychopath. She is a person who believes ethics must obey efficiency, survival justifies everything and empathy is optional. That is not madness. That is extreme rationalism taken to its limit. Tanya's life is a tragic paradox. All she wants is a stable, peaceful existence. Yet every step she takes drags her further into violence. Her lack of faith, her challenge to God, and her extreme pragmatism push her to try to control everything through logic and strategy. But life remains unpredictable and chaotic. In trying to secure comfort, she becomes a key piece in a war machine she cannot escape. She is more than a villain or an anti-hero. She is a philosophical critique incarnate, representing the spirit of hypermodernity, the disenchanted, scientific, managerial world stripped of all myth and meaning. Her story asks a terrifying question: in a universe that seems indifferent or even maliciously irrational, is the most moral path one of cold, self-interested logic? And if so, does that logic inevitably create its own kind of hell? In the end, Tanya Degurechaff may be a unique category. A rational psychopath, not born but constructed. A mind that worshipped logic, thrown into the most illogical crucible imaginable, and hardened into something terrifying. She is the nightmare of pure reason, and perhaps, its most tragic victim. To her, only survival, comfort and stability matters. Ironically, this makes her more honest than most characters. We are not meant to like Tanya, but we are forced to understand her. Her internal monologues are chillingly coherent. She shows us that the greatest atrocities in history rarely come from cackling madmen. They come from intelligent, committed people who believe, with every fiber of their being, that they are right, that their spreadsheet justifies the slaughter, that their logic trumps morality. What do you think? Is Tanya a rational evil mastermind, or a misunderstood genius playing a game she can't win? Drop your comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into the philosophy of Youjo Senki, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more analyses like this. Thanks for watching.